How does a single, unexpected delivery on the courthouse steps change the story from playful flirting to the start of my own undoing? What made my husband wait, collect receipts, and then answer me in public, right when I thought I was winning? Today, I learned what happens when harmless choices lead to a legal ending I never saw coming. The restaurant's amber lighting cast everything in a warm glow, but Jonah's face remained cold as stone. Our 5th wedding anniversary dinner was supposed to be special, romantic even. Instead, my husband sat across from me, picking at his salmon like it personally offended him. "You've barely said 2 words all evening," I said, twirling my pasta around my fork. "What's wrong now?" Jonah looked up, his brown eyes tired. "Nothing's wrong, Callista. I'm just thinking." "About what? Work? Maya's school project? Or are you still upset about me posting that photo with Felix yesterday?" His jaw tightened slightly. "I'm not upset about anything." That's when Felix appeared at our table like some kind of knight in shining armor, all confident smiles and expensive cologne. "Callista, I thought that was you." He leaned down and kissed my cheek, his hand lingering on my shoulder longer than necessary. "Happy anniversary, beautiful." I felt a thrill run through me. Felix Landon was everything Jonah wasn't: spontaneous, charming, successful in the arts world where I worked. He made me feel alive in ways my predictable math teacher husband never could. "Felix, what a surprise," I said, my voice brightening. "Jonah, you remember Felix from the foundation, right?" Jonah nodded curtly. "Of course. How are you, Felix?" "Fantastic, thanks for asking." Felix's hand moved from my shoulder to rest briefly on my lower back. "Mind if I sit for just a minute? I hate eating alone." Before either of us could answer, he slid into the booth next to me, his thigh pressing against mine. Under the table, his fingers found my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. The contact sent electricity through me. "So what are we celebrating besides this gorgeous woman's anniversary?" Felix asked, his eyes never leaving my face. I laughed, feeling more attractive than I had in months. "Just 5 years of marriage. Nothing too exciting." "5 years with you would be the adventure of a lifetime," Felix said, his thumb tracing small circles on my palm under the table. Jonah's fork clinked against his plate. "Callista, we should probably order dessert if we're going to make it to Maya's recital tomorrow." "Oh, relax," I said, waving him off. "We have plenty of time. Felix was just being sweet." "Sweet," Jonah repeated, his voice flat. Felix chuckled. "Your husband's a lucky man, Callista. I hope he knows what he has." The comment hung in the air like a challenge. I felt powerful, desired, important. When was the last time Jonah had made me feel this way? When was the last time he'd called me gorgeous or beautiful without me fishing for compliments? "He does," I said, looking directly at Jonah. "Don't you, honey?" Jonah's eyes met mine across the table. For a moment, I saw something flicker there. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. But then it was gone, replaced by that same calm mask he'd been wearing more and more lately. "Of course I do," he said quietly. Felix's hand squeezed mine again. "Well, I should let you 2 lovebirds get back to your celebration. Callista, I'll see you Monday at the office. We still need to discuss the Morrison Grant proposal." He stood up, but not before leaning down to whisper in my ear, "You look absolutely stunning tonight." His lips brushed my earlobe as he spoke, sending shivers down my spine. After Felix left, the silence between Jonah and me stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. I waited for him to say something, to get jealous, to fight with me, to show some kind of emotion. Instead, he simply signaled the waiter for the check. "That's it?" I finally asked. "You're not going to say anything?" "What would you like me to say, Callista?" "I don't know. Maybe that you noticed another man just openly flirted with your wife in front of you." Jonah folded his napkin carefully and placed it beside his plate. I noticed. "And? And what? You seem to enjoy it." His calm tone infuriated me more than yelling would have. "It was harmless, Jonah. Felix is just naturally charming. You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" "Yes. God, when did you become so insecure? It's not attractive. Something shifted in Jonah's expression then, so subtle I almost missed it. He pulled out his phone and made a quick note in what looked like a calendar app. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Nothing important." He put the phone away and smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Ready to go home?" The drive back to our apartment was silent except for the radio playing soft jazz. I kept glancing at Jonah, waiting for him to bring up Felix again, but he just drove, with that same infuriating calm. When we got home, Maya was already asleep, and our babysitter left quickly. Jonah went straight to his study and closed the door. I could hear him moving around in there, opening and closing drawers, the soft click of computer keys. I knocked on the door. "Jonah, are you coming to bed?" "In a while," he called back. "Just finishing up some work." I pressed my ear to the door but couldn't make out what he was doing. When I tried the handle, it was locked. Jonah never locked his study door. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Standing there in the hallway, still in my anniversary dress, I felt a strange mix of triumph and unease. I'd shown Jonah that other men found me desirable, that I wasn't just some boring suburban wife. So why did his lack of reaction bother me so much? I went to bed alone that night, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought about Felix's hand on mine, his lips near my ear, the way he looked at me like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. What I didn't know was that in his study, Jonah was creating a spreadsheet. Date, time, location, witnesses present, description of incident. The first entry read, "Anniversary dinner, Chez Laurent, 8:47 p.m. Felix Landon, inappropriate physical contact with wife in public." But I wouldn't discover that for weeks. All I knew was that my husband had become strangely, unsettlingly calm. Monday morning at the Arts Foundation buzzed with the usual energy of a new week. I walked through the open-plan office with extra confidence, my heels clicking against the polished concrete floors. Felix looked up from his desk and flashed me that devastating smile. "Morning, beautiful. How was the rest of your anniversary weekend?" Several coworkers glanced our way. I felt their attention like warm sunlight. "It was lovely. Thank you for asking." "I hope your husband wasn't too upset about me crashing your dinner," Felix said, standing up to lean against his desk. "I couldn't help myself when I saw you looking so incredible." Marina Chen, my closest friend at work, rolled her eyes playfully. "Felix, you're terrible. But Callista, you did look amazing Saturday night. I saw the photo you posted." I'd shared a selfie from the restaurant bathroom, captioned, "Anniversary dinner with my love-blessed married life." What I hadn't mentioned was that I'd taken it right after Felix whispered in my ear, when my cheeks were still flushed and my eyes bright with excitement. "Thanks, Ma. Sometimes a girl needs to feel beautiful, you know." "Well, mission accomplished," Felix said. "Your husband's a lucky man." "So you keep saying," I laughed. Our manager, Priya Williams, emerged from her office looking stern. "Callista, could I see you for a moment?" My stomach dropped slightly, but I maintained my composure. "Of course." Priya's office was all glass walls and modern furniture, designed to look open and collaborative. She closed the door behind us, which immediately made the space feel less friendly. "I wanted to discuss something that came to my attention over the weekend," she began, settling behind her desk. "There was a video posted on social media from Chez Laurent Saturday night." My blood ran cold. "A video?" "Someone at the restaurant filmed Felix's interaction with you. It's been shared quite a bit, and some of the comments are less than professional. I'm concerned about how this reflects on the foundation." I tried to keep my voice steady. "What kind of video? What interaction?" Priya turned her computer screen toward me. The video was short, maybe 15 seconds, but it captured everything. Felix sliding into our booth, his hand on my back, leaning in to whisper in my ear while Jonah sat there looking uncomfortable. The caption read, "When your coworker crashes your anniversary dinner and your husband just sits there, datrij awkward honcha drama." It had been shared 847 times. "Priya, this is completely innocent," I said quickly. "Felix is a colleague and friend. There's nothing inappropriate happening here." "Callista, I'm not questioning your integrity, but perception matters in our field. We work with donors, board members, community leaders. This kind of attention isn't helpful." I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "So I'm supposed to be rude to colleagues? I'm supposed to tell Felix he can't say hello to me in public?" "Of course not. I'm just asking you to be mindful of how things might appear." After leaving Priya's office, I went straight to the bathroom and called Jonah. "Did you see the video?" I asked without preamble. "What video?" His voice was calm, distracted. "Someone filmed Felix at the restaurant Saturday night. It's all over social media." There was a pause. "I see. Are you okay?" His lack of concern irritated me. "Am I okay?" "Jonah, this is embarrassing. People are talking about us, about our marriage." "What are they saying?" "That you looked uncomfortable, that Felix was inappropriate, that I was, I don't know, encouraging him." "Were you?" The question hit me like a slap. "Excuse me?" "Were you encouraging him, Callista?" "I was being polite to a colleague and friend. I'm sorry if that threatens your masculinity." Another pause. "I'm not threatened. I'll see you tonight." He hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in frustration. Why wasn't he fighting for me? Why wasn't he angry or jealous or something? That evening, I found Jonah in the kitchen, helping Maya with her math homework. Our 6-year-old daughter looked up when I walked in. "Mummy, why is Daddy sad?" she asked. "Daddy's not sad, sweetheart," I said, shooting Jonah a look. "He's just tired from work." "But he looks sad, like when our hamster died." Jonah's pencil paused over Maya's worksheet. "I'm fine, baby girl. Just concentrating on these addition problems." After Maya went to bed, I confronted Jonah in our bedroom. "You need to stop moping around. Maya's noticing." "I'm not moping." "Then what would you call it? You've barely spoken to me since Saturday night." Jonah sat on the edge of our bed, his shoulders sagging. "I'm trying to figure out what happened to us, Callista. When did we become people who humiliate each other in public?" "I didn't humiliate anyone. Felix was being friendly, and you're making it into something it's not. He had his hands all over you at our anniversary dinner." He touched my shoulder and shook my hand. "You're being dramatic." Jonah looked at me with those tired brown eyes. "Is that really what you think happened?" "Yes. And I'm tired of you making me feel guilty for having friends and colleagues who appreciate me." "Appreciate you?" "Yes. Is that so wrong? Is it wrong that someone finds me interesting and attractive?" "No," Jonah said quietly. "It's not wrong, but the way you responded to it, that felt wrong." I threw my hands up in frustration. "I can't win with you. If I'm friendly, I'm inappropriate. If I'm professional, I'm cold. What do you want from me?" "I want my wife back," he said simply. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about the video, about the comments, about Priya's concerned expression. But mostly I thought about Felix, the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel special and desired. Around midnight, I got up to get some water and noticed light coming from under Jonah's study door. I pressed my ear against it and heard the soft clicking of keyboard keys, the occasional rustle of papers. What was he doing in there night after night? I tried the handle again, still locked. The next morning, I found my phone buzzing with notifications. The video had been shared over 2,000 times now, and someone had tagged the Arts Foundation's official account. The comments ranged from supportive, "Get it, girl," to harsh, "Poor husband looks miserable," to downright cruel, "Cheating wife alert." But the one that made my heart race was from Felix himself. "Some people are worth breaking the rules for." He'd tagged me in it. I stared at the comment, my pulse quickening. It was bold, risky, Exactly the kind of thing that made Felix so exciting. But it was also public, visible to everyone, including Jonah. I should have deleted it. I should have asked Felix to remove it. Instead, I liked it. The non-profit mixer at the rooftop venue downtown was supposed to be a professional networking event. I'd spent an hour getting ready, choosing a black cocktail dress that hugged my curves in all the right places. When I told Jonah about the event, he surprised me by saying he'd like to come. "You hate these things," I said, applying my lipstick in the bathroom mirror. "I thought it might be nice to see you in your element," he replied from the bedroom. "Meet some of your colleagues." Something in his tone made me pause. Felix will be there. I figured. When we arrived at the venue, the city lights twinkled below us like scattered diamonds. The foundation's board members mingled with donors and staff, everyone dressed in their finest. I felt beautiful, confident, ready to show Jonah exactly who I was in this world. Felix found me within minutes, appearing at my elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "You look absolutely breathtaking," he said, handing me a glass. His eyes traveled down my dress appreciatively. "That color is perfect on you." "Thank you," I said, accepting the compliment and the champagne. "Felix, you remember my husband, Jonah." "Of course. Good to see you again, Jonah." Felix extended his hand, which Jonah shook briefly. "Likewise." "I was just telling Callista how lucky the foundation is to have her," Felix continued, his hand finding its way to the small of my back. "She's been absolutely invaluable on the Morrison grant." "I'm sure she has," Jonah replied. As the evening progressed, Felix stayed close to me, refilling my champagne glass, introducing me to important donors, making me feel like the most important person at the party. His hand seemed to find reasons to touch me constantly, guiding me through the crowd with a palm on my lower back, brushing my arm when he leaned in to speak over the music, adjusting my necklace when he claimed it was crooked. I was aware of Jonah watching us, but instead of feeling guilty, I felt powerful. Let him see how other people valued me. Let him see what he was taking for granted. "Dance with me," Felix said during a slow song, extending his hand. I glanced at Jonah, who was standing by the bar talking to Priya. He looked over and nodded slightly, as if giving permission. Felix led me to the small dance floor, pulling me close. His cologne enveloped me as we swayed to the music, his hand pressed firmly against my back, fingers splayed possessively. "Your husband doesn't seem like the dancing type," he murmured in my ear. "He's not," I admitted. "What a shame. A woman like you should be dancing every night." I felt his lips brush against my ear as he spoke, sending shivers down my spine. Around us, other couples danced, but I felt like Felix and I were the only 2 people in the world. That's when I heard the first camera click. I looked around and saw Nate Richardson, a young coordinator from our office, holding up his phone with a grin. Then another flash. This one from someone I didn't recognize. Then another. "Smile, you 2, Nate called out. "You look amazing together." Felix spun me around, dipping me dramatically as more phones appeared. I laughed, feeling giddy and reckless. This was what it felt like to be the center of attention, to be desired, to be worth photographing. When the song ended, Felix kept his arms around me for a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you for the dance, beautiful." I looked around for Jonah and found him still at the bar, but now he was typing something on his phone. When he looked up and caught my eye, he raised his glass slightly in what might have been a toast or a farewell. "Having fun?" he asked when I rejoined him. "It's a nice event," I said, slightly breathless from the dancing and champagne. "You and Felix looked like you were enjoying yourselves." There was no accusation in his voice, no anger, just that same calm observation that had been driving me crazy for weeks. "We were just dancing, Jonah. It's what people do at parties." "I know. Then why do you sound upset?" "I don't sound upset. I sound tired." The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing incessantly. The photos and videos from the party had already made their way to social media, and they were spreading fast. Felix and I looked good together. There was no denying that. We looked like a couple, like two people who belonged together. The captions ranged from playful to pointed. When you and your work husband are couple goals. Is it just me, or is there some serious chemistry here? Plot twist, that's not her actual husband. But it was the family group chat that made my stomach drop. Mum, Callista honey, people are sending me photos from last night. What's going on? Aunt Lydia, Jonah's aunt. This is embarrassing for everyone involved. Dad, can we please keep family business private? Aunt Lydia, it's not private when it's all over the internet. Mom, Lydia, please, I'm sure there's an explanation. Aunt Lydia, there better be. Jonah doesn't deserve this. I found Jonah in his study, door open for once, sitting at his desk with a cup of coffee and his laptop. Your aunt is attacking me in the family chat, I said without preamble. I saw. Aren't you going to defend me? Jonah looked up from his screen. What would you like me to say? That the photos are being taken out of context. That Felix and I are just colleagues. That people are making something out of nothing. Are they? I stared at him. Are they what? Making something out of nothing. Yes, of course they are. I danced with a colleague at a work event. That's all. Jonah nodded slowly, then turned back to his laptop. I could see he was looking at a spreadsheet, but I couldn't make out the details from where I stood. What are you working on? I asked. Just organizing some things. What things? Household stuff, bills, schedules, important dates. He minimized the window before I could see more, but not before I caught a glimpse of what looked like a calendar with several dates circled in red. Jonah, what's going on with you lately? You're being so strange. Strange how? Secretive, distant, like you're planning something. He saved his work and closed the laptop. I'm not planning anything, Callista. I'm just trying to understand what's happening to our marriage. Nothing's happening to our marriage. You're the one making it weird. Am I? That afternoon, Maya came home from school with a drawing she'd made in art class. It was supposed to be our family, but something about it made my chest tight. She'd drawn herself in the middle, tall and smiling. I was on one side, also tall, wearing what looked like a party dress. But Jonah was tiny in the corner, grey and small, almost like an afterthought. Tell me about your picture, sweetheart, I said, trying to keep my voice light. It's us, Maya said matter-of-factly. But Daddy's been sad lately, so I made him small. When people are sad, they get smaller. I looked at the drawing again, seeing it through my daughter's eyes. In her world, sadness made people shrink, and joy made them grow. In her world, I was big and bright while her father faded into the background. That night, I tried to talk to Jonah about it, but he was locked in his study again. I could hear him on the phone with someone, his voice too low to make out words. I knocked on the door. Jonah, who are you talking to? The conversation stopped. Just a friend. I'll be out in a bit. What friend? It's almost 11 o'clock. Someone from college, we're catching up. But when I pressed my ear to the door, I heard him say something about documentation and timeline before his voice dropped too low to hear. I went to bed alone again, but this time I couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting beneath my feet, like standing on ice that was starting to crack. What I didn't know was that Jonah's friend from college was actually David Martinez, a family law attorney. And the documentation they were discussing wasn't just a spreadsheet anymore, it was evidence. 2 weeks after the rooftop party, I started noticing changes in Jonah that went beyond his usual quiet demeanor. He'd always been organized, but now he seemed almost methodical in his daily routines. Every morning, he'd spend extra time in his study before work. Every evening, he'd disappear behind that locked door for hours. The family group chat had finally died down, but the damage was done. My mother called me daily now, asking gentle questions about my marriage and whether everything was okay at home. My father had stopped commenting entirely, which somehow felt worse than his usual attempts at peacemaking. At work, the photos from the mixer had become old news, replaced by newer office gossip. But Felix seemed energized by all the attention. He'd grown bolder, more openly flirtatious, as if the public speculation had given him permission to stop pretending our relationship was purely professional. "Coffee?" he asked, appearing at my desk Monday morning with 2 cups from the expensive cafe down the street. "Thank you," I said, accepting the cup gratefully. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to. Besides, I thought we could discuss the Henderson proposal over lunch today. There's a new place I've been wanting to try." Marina looked up from her desk nearby, raising an eyebrow. "Another working lunch? You two have been having a lot of those lately." "We're dedicated to our work," Felix said with a grin. "Right, Callista?" That evening, I came home to find Maya in the living room, working on homework while Jonah cooked dinner. The domestic scene should have felt warm and comfortable, but instead it felt strangely hollow. "How was school, baby?" I asked, kissing the top of Maya's head. "Good. We learned about families and social studies. Mrs. Peterson said families come in all different shapes and sizes." "That's right, they do. She said sometimes mommies and daddies live in different houses, but they still love their kids the same." I felt my stomach clench. "Why would she tell you that?" Maya shrugged. "Because Tommy's parents got divorced and he was sad. But Mrs. Peterson said it's not his fault, and they both still love him." I glanced at Jonah, who was stirring something on the stove with careful concentration. "Maya, sweetie, why don't you go wash your hands for dinner?" After she left the room, I confronted Jonah. "Did you say something to Maya about divorce?" "No." "Then why is she suddenly talking about parents living in different houses?" "Maybe because her friend's parents are getting divorced. Maybe because she's not blind to the tension in this house." His calm response frustrated me. "There's no tension. You're creating tension by acting like a martyr all the time." Jonah turned off the burner and faced me. "I'm not acting like anything, Callista. I'm trying to figure out how to handle this situation." "What situation? There is no situation." "Isn't there?" That night, after Maya was asleep, I decided to confront the mystery of Jonah's locked study. I waited until I heard the shower running, then tried his desk drawers. Most were unlocked and contained the usual household paperwork, bills, Maya's school forms, insurance documents. But the bottom drawer was locked. I searched through his desk supplies until I found a small key taped under the drawer above. My hand shook slightly as I unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled it open. Inside were manila folders, each labeled with dates and locations. Anniversary dinner, March 15th. Non-profit mixer, March 28th. Lunch meeting, April 3rd. There were more, going back weeks. I opened the first folder with trembling fingers. Inside were printed screenshots from social media, including the video from our anniversary dinner and all the comments. There were also what looked like receipts from the restaurant, time-stamped and highlighting our table number and the duration of our stay. The second folder contained photos from the mixer, but not just the ones that had been posted publicly. These looked like they'd been taken specifically to document Felix's hands on me, the way we looked at each other, how close we danced. At the bottom of the drawer was a USB drive labeled Archive AB and a yellow legal pad covered in Jonah's neat handwriting. I could see dates, times, and brief descriptions. F arrived uninvited, physical contact initiated, C did not discourage. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I quickly photographed a few pages with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When Jonah came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on our bed pretending to read a magazine. "Everything okay?" he asked, toweling his hair dry. "Fine. Why?" "You look pale." "Just tired." He nodded and got into bed beside me, but I could feel the space between us like a physical presence. We lay there in the dark, both pretending to sleep, both knowing the other was awake. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day trying to process what I'd found. Jonah was documenting everything, not just the obvious incidents, but smaller moments I'd forgotten about. Felix walking me to my car after work. Felix bringing me coffee. Felix's comments on my social media posts. When had my husband become a detective in his own marriage? That afternoon, my mother called. "I had the strangest dream about you last night," she said without preamble. "What kind of dream?" "You were standing in an empty house, calling for someone, but no one answered. It felt so lonely, honey. Are you sure everything's all right?" "Everything's fine, Mom." "Because your father mentioned that Jonah called him yesterday." My blood ran cold. "Jonah called Dad? Why?" "I don't know. They talked for about 20 minutes, but your father won't tell me what about. He just said Jonah sounded thoughtful." After hanging up, I paced the apartment trying to figure out what Jonah might have discussed with my father. They'd never been particularly close, rarely speaking except at family gatherings. When Jonah came home from work, I was waiting for him in the kitchen. "My mother said you called my father yesterday." "I did." "Why?" "We had some things to discuss." "What things?" Jonah set down his briefcase and loosened his tie. "Adult things, Callista. Nothing you need to worry about." "Don't patronize me. What did you talk to my father about?" "I asked him for some advice about a situation I'm dealing with." "What situation?" Jonah looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before, a kind of resigned determination. "You'll find out soon enough," he said quietly. That evening, Maya asked if we could all watch a movie together, like a real family. The phrase hit me like a slap. When had we stopped being a real family in our daughter's eyes? We settled on the couch, Maya between us, but I could barely focus on the screen. I kept thinking about those folders, about Jonah's phone calls, about the way he'd been watching me lately, not with hurt or anger, but with the careful attention of someone gathering information. During a commercial, Maya looked up at Jonah. "Daddy, are you going to move to a different house like Tommy's dad?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I felt Jonah's body tense beside our daughter. "Why would you ask that, baby girl?" "Because you've been putting papers in boxes in your office, and you look sad all the time now." I turned to stare at Jonah. "What papers? What boxes?" "Just organizing some old files," he said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. After Maya went to bed, I tried the study door again. Still locked, but now I could hear different sounds from inside, the rustle of papers being sorted, the soft thud of items being placed in containers. "Jonah," I called through the door. "What are you doing in there?" "Just cleaning up." "Can I help?" "No, thank you. I've got it handled." I pressed my forehead against the door, suddenly feeling very alone. "Are we okay? Our marriage, I mean. Are we okay?" There was a long pause before he answered. "I don't know, Callista. Are we?" The family birthday dinner was supposed to be a celebration. My father was turning 65, and my mother had insisted on gathering everyone at Romano's, the Italian restaurant where my parents had their first date 30 years ago. I saw it as an opportunity to show everyone, including Jonah, that we were still a united front, still a family worth celebrating. I spent extra time getting ready, choosing a red dress that I knew looked stunning on me. When Jonah emerged from his study wearing a simple button-down and khakis, I felt a flash of irritation. "That's what you're wearing to my father's birthday dinner?" "What's wrong with what I'm wearing?" "Nothing if we were going to a PTA meeting. This is a special occasion, Jonah." He looked down at his outfit, then back at me. "I think I look fine." "Fine isn't the point. The point is showing up, making an effort, being present." Something flickered across his face. "I'm always present, Callista." We rode to the restaurant in silence, Maya chattering from her car seat about the drawing she'd made for Grandpa. When we arrived, my parents, Aunt Lydia, and my cousin Nate were already seated at a large round table in the back of the restaurant. "There's the happy couple," Nate said as we approached, but there was something in his tone that made me look at him sharply. He was scrolling through his phone, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sorry we're late," I said, kissing my father's cheek. "Happy birthday, Dad." "Thank you, sweetheart. You look beautiful." As we settled into our seats, I noticed the arrangement. Somehow I'd ended up between my father and Nate, while Jonah was across the table between my mother and Aunt Lydia. It felt strategic, like we were being kept apart. "So," Nate said, still looking at his phone, "I saw the cutest photos of you and Felix from last week's gallery opening. You two really do photograph well together." My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten that Nate followed me on social media, that he would have seen the pictures Felix and I had taken at the contemporary art exhibit downtown. They were innocent enough, two colleagues at a professional event, but Felix's arm around my waist and the way we were looking at each other probably told a different story. "It was a work event," I said carefully. "Of course it was," Nate replied, but his grin suggested he didn't believe it for a second. "Felix seems like such a charming guy. Very attentive." Across the table, Jonah was cutting Maya's chicken into small pieces, his movements precise and controlled. He didn't look up, didn't react to Nate's comments at all. "Nate," my mother said sharply, "this is your grandfather's birthday dinner. Can we please focus on celebrating him?" "Absolutely. I just think it's nice when people find happiness, in whatever form it takes." The conversation moved on to safer topics: Dad's retirement plans, Maya's upcoming school play, Aunt Lydia's new job. But I could feel an undercurrent of tension, like everyone was carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from Felix. "Missing you tonight. Hope you're having fun with the family. Can't wait to see you Monday." I glanced around the table, but everyone seemed focused on their conversations. I quickly typed back, "Missing you too. This is torture." Another buzz. "Want to meet for a drink after? I'm downtown." I looked at Jonah, who was listening to something Maya was telling him about her friend's pet rabbit. He looked tired, older somehow, like the past few weeks had aged him. "Actually, yes," I typed. "Give me an hour." "Callista," Aunt Lydia's voice cut through my thoughts. "How are things at the foundation? You've been getting quite a bit of attention lately." "Things are good. We're working on some exciting new projects." "With Felix?" The way she said his name made it sound like an accusation. "Among other people, yes. He seems very involved in your work. He's a dedicated colleague." "I'm sure he is." My father cleared his throat. "Lydia, perhaps we could talk about something else." "Of course. I just think it's important for families to support each other, especially during challenging times." She looked directly at Jonah as she said this, and he finally looked up from Maya's animated story. "I appreciate that, Aunt Lydia," he said quietly. "Good, because family loyalty matters. It's what separates us from people who make selfish choices." The comment hung in the air like a challenge. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "I haven't made any selfish choices," I said. "Haven't you?" "Lydia," my mother warned. "No, it's fine," I said, setting down my fork. "If Aunt Lydia has something to say, she should say it." "I think you know what I'm saying, dear." "Actually, I don't. Why don't you spell it out for me?" Jonah's hand moved to cover Maya's ears gently. "Maybe we should discuss this later." "There's nothing to discuss," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I'm tired of people making insinuations about my friendships and my professional relationships. I'm a grown woman, and I can make my own choices about who I spend time with." "Even if those choices hurt your family?" Aunt Lydia asked. "What family? You mean the husband who barely speaks to me anymore, who locks himself in his office every night, who treats me like a stranger in my own home?" The table went silent. Maya looked confused and a little scared. My parents exchanged worried glances. "Mommy," Maya said quietly, "why are you yelling?" I looked down at my daughter and felt a wave of shame. "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy's just frustrated." "Are you mad at Daddy?" The question was so innocent, so direct, that it cut through all my anger and left me feeling hollow. No, sweetheart, I'm not mad at Daddy. But when I looked across the table at Jonah, I saw something in his eyes that made my breath catch. It wasn't hurt or anger, it was pity. He pitied me. After dinner, I told everyone I was meeting a friend for coffee and would take a cab home. Jonah nodded and said he'd take Maya home and get her ready for bed. What friend? My mother asked. Just someone from work. I met Felix at a wine bar downtown, a dimly lit place with intimate booths and jazz music. He was waiting for me with a bottle of my favorite Pinot Grigio already ordered. You look like you need this, he said, pouring me a generous glass. Family dinner was intense. Want to talk about it? I told him about Nate's comments, about Aunt Lydia's accusations, about the way everyone seemed to be taking sides. Felix listened sympathetically, his hand covering mine on the table. They're just jealous, he said. You're vibrant and alive, and they can't stand that you refuse to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. That's exactly how I feel, like everyone wants me to be smaller, quieter, more conventional. Never be smaller, Callista. The world needs more women who refuse to apologize for taking up space. We talked for 2 hours, and with each glass of wine, I felt more validated, more understood. Felix made me feel like the most fascinating woman in the world, like my thoughts and feelings mattered. When he walked me to my cab, he pulled me close and kissed me softly on the lips. It was brief, gentle, but it sent electricity through my entire body. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, he whispered. I should have pulled away. I should have said it was wrong, that I was married, that we couldn't cross this line. Instead, I kissed him back. When I got home, the apartment was dark, except for a light under Jonah's study door. I stood in the hallway for a moment, my lips still tingling from Felix's kiss, and wondered if I should tell Jonah I was home. Instead, I went to bed alone, but this time I wasn't troubled by guilt or confusion. For the first time in weeks, I felt clear about what I wanted. What I didn't know was that Jonah had seen the photos Nate showed him on his phone during dinner. Photos of me and Felix at the gallery opening, at various restaurants, at the wine bar tonight. Photos that someone had been taking and sending to a family member who thought Jonah deserved to know the truth. In his study, Jonah added the new evidence to his growing collection and made a note in his calendar. Meeting with attorney, tomorrow, 2 p.m. 3 days later, I was having lunch with Felix at a trendy cafe downtown, the kind of place where everything was photographed and shared on social media. We'd moved beyond the pretense of discussing work. This was clearly a date, and I didn't care who knew it. Felix had his hand over mine on the table, his thumb tracing gentle circles on my palm. The spring sunshine streaming through the windows made everything feel golden and possible. I have something to tell you, he said, his voice low and intimate. What? I'm falling in love with you, Callista. The words hit me like a warm wave. No one had said they loved me in months, not even Jonah, who used to tell me he loved me every morning before work. Felix, I know it's complicated, I know you're married, but I can't pretend anymore that this is just friendship or just work. You mean everything to me. I felt tears prick my eyes. You mean everything to me, too. He leaned across the table and kissed me, right there in the crowded cafe, with people walking by and phones probably recording. I didn't care. For the first time in months, I felt alive. After lunch, Felix suggested we take a walk through the nearby courthouse square. It was a beautiful day, and the old building, with its classical columns and wide steps, made a picturesque backdrop. Let's take a selfie, I said, pulling out my phone. I want to remember this moment. We posed on the courthouse steps, Felix's arm around my waist, both of us smiling like we'd just discovered something wonderful. I posted it immediately with the caption, "Beautiful day, beautiful company. Blessed O.N. living my best life." That's when I saw him. Jonah showed up on the courthouse steps in a suit I'd never seen, carrying a folder that told me everything before a word was said. Moments later, I was served divorce papers in public, custody schedules, asset restraints, the end of my marriage in black and white. Jonah calmly explained he'd documented my relationship with Felix for weeks. Photos, receipts, posts, witnesses. Felix panicked when Jonah revealed his employer had already been notified, then walked away without looking back. Jonah told me he wasn't taking Maya from me, but he was asking for primary custody because of my choices. Late nights, public posts, missed bedtime stories. I begged to fix it, but he said the truth plainly. I could change, but I didn't want to. He chose dignity and protection over pretending. 6 months later, the divorce was final, Felix was gone, and Maya was calmer living mostly with her father. I kept the papers as a reminder that I'd chosen excitement over stability, and Jonah had chosen to end it with precision.